Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. All praises to Allah. We send peace and salutations upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. The morning message for today, inshallah, is a lesson from the Sharia of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the Sharia of Islam about inheritance. And joining us online via Zoom, Fadilat Sheikh Munier Abdoroaf. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Fadilat Sheikh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته يا شيخ سامح جاد.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Barakallah feek wa nara Allah wajhak. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, Fadilat al-Sheikh, and accept from you, Allahumma ameen. And you may start, inshallah, enlightening the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about the Sharia.
جزاك الله شيخ سامح. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Respected Sheikh Samih Jad, and to the viewers out there, I greet you in the universal greetings of love, mercy and peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, inshallah, this morning we will be looking at the laws of inheritance, the laws of mirath, as it is also known as. And what I would like to highlight this morning is that the estate of a person, once he or she passes away, has to be administered in terms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's law, as Allah has specifically in detail explained in the Quran in Surah An-Nisa, chapter number 4, verses 11, 12, and 176. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had taken it upon himself to detail what should happen to our estates once we pass away. Now, generally, the estate could be broken up into three parts. The first part of our estates, once we pass away, could be referred to as the liabilities. So those would be the first class of claims that would be deducted from our estates. The second class of claims would be the wasiyah or the testate succession claims. And only the last part of our estate that will be claimed would be the mirath, that is now to the sons, the daughters, the parents, and the surviving spouse, and so forth. This morning, I will be focusing on that first claim that many of us are very negligent with, and that is now the liabilities. To put context to this discussion, we can go back to the Prophet ﷺ's example when at the beginning of Islam, he used to enter a mosque for a janazah, as we are all going to die one day. And the Prophet ﷺ would ask the question with regard to the Sahabi, and he would say, "A'alayhi Deen." Does this person have any debt? If the answer was in the affirmative, if the answer was yes, this Sahabi does have Deen, he has passed on, and he left behind creditors that he owes money to, the Prophet ﷺ at this point, at the beginning of Islam, he would then turn around and leave the mosque, and he would say, "Sallu ala sahibikum." You make salah on this person. As we know, the salah of janazah is fardun kifaya. The Prophet ﷺ was making a statement that as far as possible, we should try not to indulge in debt. However, in the event where we do have to do so because of necessity, not because of luxury, but more of necessity, we need to purchase a house, for example, and maybe make a loan, a Sharia-compliant loan. We need to buy certain things, and at times it might be difficult. In that instance, we enter into a loan agreement, for example. However, that agreement should firstly be reduced to writing, and it should be witnessed as far as possible, so that in the event where you pass away, those people that you do owe money to would have a valid claim against your estate. They have proof that you owe them that money. And the Prophet ﷺ, in the same regard, had stated, do not let 2 nights pass and you have something to leave behind as a wasiyah. Now, they refer to this as a wasiyah wajibah. Now, this does not refer to the normal bequest of 1/3 in favor of the masjid and a friend and so forth. This hadith refers to an instance where you have entered into such type of a loan agreement, for example, but it was not reduced to writing, or it was not witnessed and so forth. And once you pass away, it will be very difficult, or if not impossible, for the creditor to prove that you owed him or her that money. So therefore, you should put it into writing that if I were to pass away this evening, then that Buddha Muhammad, Buddha Yusuf, Buddha Amin must then receive 2,000 rand, 5,000 rand, 10,000 rand from my estate, as this is what is due to him, and what I have loaned from him. Right? Because you don't want to be in a situation where on the day of Qiyamah, these people are then claiming from your good deeds. Now that very hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, there was many instances where he left the mosque and he left it up to the Sahaba to make that salah. On one occasion, the Prophet ﷺ was told by a Sahabi, we have noticed that you will always leave the mosque if you find that the person had debt. Now, I will be the person that will pay that debt on behalf of the deceased. So please make salah on this individual, on this janazah. The Sahabi was then told by the Prophet ﷺ, are you then paying this amount of money, but now he is indebted to you? Or is it that you are paying it and it's done with? No one owes anyone anything. The Sahabi said, no one owes anyone anything. In that instance, the Prophet ﷺ then performed the salah. When the next one of the awqat had approached, the Prophet ﷺ saw the Sahabi and he asked him, have you settled the debt? Have you paid the creditor that which the person who has passed away owed to that individual? The Sahabi said, no, I am in course of doing that, but I've not done so as yet. The Prophet ﷺ left him. When the next waqt approached, the Prophet ﷺ again met the person, the Sahabi in the mosque, and asked him, did you pay that debt which was owed and is owed by the Sahabi that passed on? The person then said, no, not yet. On the third occasion, the person then said, yes, I have settled the debt. And the Prophet ﷺ then said, now the punishment has been lightened. Now what we can understand by this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is that debt is not something we play around with. We should ensure as far as possible, if you look at that the debt would be paid, that all proof for the person who you owe the money to is there. As the longest ayah, the longest verse in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down is to do with this type of a situation. It is to do with commercial transactions. It's to do with having it reduced to writing, having evidence, having witnesses, having it signed, for example, and so forth and so forth. Now, this class of claims against the estate, the liabilities, yes, it refers to the debt. Now, what does debt entail? It could, yes, be that amount of money that I've loaned by someone. But there are many other examples as well. It could also be that when I've entered into a marriage, I've agreed with my prospective spouse, my wife, that in the event where I marry you, you have requested 10,000 rand, you have requested 100,000 rand, you have requested a house, you have requested a Hajj worth 50,000 or 100,000 rand, or an Umrah worth 50,000 rand. Whatever the instance might be, if I have agreed to that, and at the time of nikah, I've then said, قَبِلْتُ نِكَاحَهَا لِنَفْسِي بِذَلِكَ, I have accepted these conditions and that mahar and all of these things is binding upon myself. It might be that mahar, that meher or dowry or maskali might be a one that is not prompt, but it is deferred. it must be paid at some future event, let's say in 10 years' time. But when I married this young lady, then I have only lived on this dunya for 5 years. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His infinite wisdom, has then ordered Malakul Maut to extract my ruh, which means that the 10 year has not yet elapsed. I'm still owing her that house worth £1 million, whatever the instance might be. It's important then also to note that that should also be reduced to writing, not just to say that, you know what your mahar is and so forth, it will be sorted out. But what could then later happen is it could become a dispute, right? So very important, as Muslims, we must ensure that we have evidence for everything that we enter into. Part of liabilities also includes religious liabilities. So it might be that I have, especially in terms of the Shafi'i madhab, have not yet performed one of the pillars of Islam, which is now the Hajj, as many of the Hujjaz are now returning from Makkah and Mukarramah in the holy precincts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant that the Hajj is one that is mabrur. Ameen. As we know, the hadith says, وَالْحَجُّ الْمَبْرُورُ لَيْسَ لَهُ جَزَاءٌ إِلَّا الْجَنَّةِ. Ameen. May Allah grant him to be of them. May Allah grant us to be of them. But it might be we are in a situation where we have the time, we have the money, and we have been accredited. But for some reason, we have delayed our pilgrimage to Makkah al-Mukarramah because of business, because of family, because of this, because of that. Now, in this instance, in terms of the Shafi'i madhab, that would be a religious liability, a liability that is owed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in that instance, we must ensure that when we pass away, there would be someone that would then ensure that someone performs a Hajj on my behalf, also referred to as the Badal Hajj. And that person obviously should have performed a Hajj of his own already in the past. So be it that religious liability, or be it a nadhr that you make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of these religious liabilities in terms of the Shafi'i madhab, it must then be paid from the estate as liability claims, as a first charge against the estate. And the same applies to the janazah. Right? When we pass away, it's important to note that there should be money left aside. Don't leave it up to the family to fight here and there and all of those things. And the family should also not worry and burden the sons and the daughters and all of that. They could make the payment and later on claim that money back. These are the first claims against the estate. And on this basis, once we pass on, the hadith says, do not let 2 nights pass except that something's written. Ensure that if at this point in time on this Yawm al-Jum'ah, on this Friday morning, if you have entered into any transaction, if we owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala something, ensure that things are in place. That if we were to pass away today, this morning, on this Mubarak day, that it will be settled. If I owe Auntie Amina, Buddha Muhammad, whatever the instance, a sum of money, that ensure that it will be settled. Do not let it be that when I pass away, my family, they fight over the money, they take whatever is needed to be taken, and the next morning someone knocks on the door and they say, no, but you are a thief, you are lying, and all of these things. And that person, out of the goodness of his or her heart, has, during my lifetime, wanted to assist me in some difficulty that I found myself in. And now when I've passed on, when they come back and claim what is rightfully theirs, they didn't even charge any interest. They just wanted to help me or you out. And then now the family is basically saying that they are thieves. Why? Because we have not set things right. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us to be of those that put things in order.
Ameen.
Do add the longest verse in the Quran requires of us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us to go from strength to strength. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Jazakallah khair, Fadlat al-Sheikh, for this beautiful advice. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from Fadlat al-Sheikh And may Allah Azza wa Jal prolong your life in the ta'ah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you benefit so many more people, inshallah, with your knowledge. Allahumma ameen. جزاك الله خيرا شيخنا. الله يفتح عليك. شكرا جزيلا. جمعة مباركة. All right. This was Fadrat Sheikh Munier Abdoroaf. Fadrat Sheikh is an expert in Masail al-Sharia wal-Mirath, inheritance. May Allah Azza wa Jal accept from Fadrat Sheikh. Inshallah, Fadrat Sheikh will be with us always, every week, inshallah. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward Fadrat Sheikh, and may Allah benefit us. And it's essential knowledge, ikhwa, ilmun yuntafa'u bih, that we should learn and we share it with others, inshallah. May Allah accept. All right, we're taking a short break. We'll come back after the break, inshallah, with the open segment for the questions and answers. Stay with us.